What if you could hear the speech that plunged the world into its deadliest war, spoken in the voice of the man who lit the fuse? For decades, we've only had grainy newsreels and dry history books to understand Adolf Hitler's address on September 1st, 1939. The words are there, but the chilling delivery, the calculated pauses, the manipulative power, that gets lost. But what if we could strip all that away? Using advanced AI, we've reconstructed that infamous speech, and the result is deeply unsettling. This isn't just about listening to a historical artifact. It's about confronting the web of lies, the twisted logic, and the fanatical worldview that ignited the Second World War. Today, we're not just going to listen. We're going to dissect Hitler's claims, one by one, to expose the propaganda machine at work. This is the story of a speech that wasn't just a speech. It was Germany's public declaration of war, a performance designed to mask a brutal act of aggression that was already underway. To get what's really going on in this speech, we have to rewind to the last tense days of August 1939. Europe was a powder keg, holding its breath. And at the center of it all was the fallout from World War I, the Treaty of Versailles. For Germans, the Versailles Diktat was a national humiliation. It had redrawn the map, and two of the deepest wounds were the Polish corridor and the city of Danzig. The corridor was a strip of land that gave the new nation of Poland access to the sea, but it also cut Germany in two, isolating East Prussia. Danzig, a historically German port, was made a free city, belonging to neither Germany nor Poland. For years, Hitler's propaganda machine hammered on these points. It painted a picture of a wronged Germany and, crucially, of suffering ethnic Germans living inside Poland. The newspapers were flooded with stories, most of them completely made up, of persecution and violence against these German minorities. The goal was to manufacture outrage and create a pretext, portraying any German action as a rescue mission. Publicly, Hitler pretended he wanted a peaceful solution, talking about modest proposals that Poland was stubbornly rejecting. But behind the scenes, he had already sealed Poland's fate. On August 23, 1939, the world was shocked by the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. Ideological enemies, Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union, promised not to attack each other. But the real deal was in the fine print. In a secret protocol, Hitler and Stalin had agreed to slice up Eastern Europe. Poland would be split down the middle. For Hitler, this was the final green light. It took away his fear of a two-front war, the nightmare that doomed Germany in WWI. He believed he could now invade Poland, betting that Britain and France would look the other way one last time. The stage was set. All Hitler needed now was an excuse to light the match. Every war needs a justification, a casus belli. And if you don't have one, you make one up. On the last night of August 1939, the Nazis launched Operation Himmler, a series of elaborate, cynical deceptions. The most famous of these was the Gleiwitz incident, a fake attack designed to look like Polish aggression. An SS officer named Alfred Naujoks led a team of German operatives dressed in Polish uniforms. They stormed a small German radio station right on the border, Sender Gleiwitz. They fired a few shots, then broadcast a short panicked message in Polish, claiming Poland was now attacking Germany. To make it look real, they committed a cold-blooded murder. They took a local German farmer, a man known to be sympathetic to Poland, dressed his body in a Polish uniform, and left him at the scene as proof. This man, Franciszek Honiok, is now widely considered the very first victim of World War II. The bodies of other murdered concentration camp prisoners, which the Nazis chillingly called canned goods, were used in numerous other staged incidents along the border to paint a picture of a full-scale Polish assault. It was all theater. A grotesque lie manufactured to give Hitler what he needed. He could now stand before the world not as an invader, but as a leader defending his nation from attack. And while this fake news was being prepped for broadcast, the real invasion had already begun. In the dark, early hours of September the 1st, German forces were pouring across the border. Around 4:48 a.m., the battleship Schleswig-Holstein in Danzig on a supposed goodwill visit opened fire on the Polish fort at Westerplatte. At nearly the same time, the Luftwaffe dropped the first bombs on the town of Wielun, a town with no military significance. The war had started, based on a lie. Now, Hitler had to sell it. Around 11 a.m., Adolf Hitler walked to the podium of the Kroll Opera House in Berlin. He wasn't in his usual brown party uniform, but a simple field-gray military tunic. He was now the first soldier of the Reich. The invasion he'd ordered was almost 6 hours old, but the story he was about to tell was entirely different. Before we listen, a quick note. The voice you're about to hear is an AI reconstruction based on surviving recordings. Our goal isn't to give a platform to hate, but to use technology as a tool for critical listening. Hearing the cadence and tone helps us understand the manipulative power of rhetoric in a way that text alone can't. The speech started slowly, methodically, as he laid out his catalog of lies. Deputies, men of the German Reichstag, for months we have been suffering under the torture of a problem which the Versailles Diktat created, a problem which has deteriorated until it becomes intolerable for us. Danzig was and is a German city. The corridor was and is German. Both these territories owe their cultural development exclusively to the German people. Danzig was separated from us. The corridor was annexed by Poland. As in other German territories of the East, all German minorities living there have been ill-treated in the most distressing manner. I have tried to solve these problems by proposing a peaceful discussion. I then formulated the German proposals. I must once more repeat that there is nothing more modest or loyal than these proposals. I should like to say this to the world. Okay, let's pause here. What is he actually doing? He immediately brings up Versailles, the ultimate grievance. He frames Danzig and the corridor not as complicated political issues, but as a simple case of theft and torture. Germany is the victim, patiently suffering. His claim about making modest and loyal proposals is a complete distortion. Germany had given Poland a 16-point ultimatum, but it was a diplomatic trap. They demanded a Polish representative show up in Berlin immediately to accept the terms, but never actually presented the terms to the Polish ambassador. Instead, they read them on the radio and declared them rejected before Poland could even formally see them. It was a proposal designed to be refused, making war look like the only option. He was painting himself as the peacemaker, even as his tanks were rolling. After establishing Germany as the victim, Hitler moved to the main event. He needed to present a clear act of Polish aggression to justify the invasion. This is where he delivers the most famous lie of the entire speech, built on the charade at Gleiwitz. This night, for the first time, Polish regular soldiers fired on our own territory. Since 5:45 a.m., we have been returning the fire, and from now on, bombs will be met by bombs. This is the core of the deception. Let's break it down. Polish regular soldiers fired on our own territory. A direct, completely fabricated reference to the Gleiwitz incident. He states it as undeniable fact. Then, the time, since 5:45 a.m. This isn't random. The real invasion started closer to 4:45 a.m. Why the change? It makes the German response seem more immediate, more directly tied to the supposed attack overnight. And finally, the rhetorical masterstroke. We have been returning the fire. He doesn't say we are attacking. He says we are returning fire. In one brilliant, deceitful phrase, the invader becomes the defender. Germany isn't starting a war. It's just finishing one that Poland supposedly began. It was a lie that would cost millions of lives. With his justification delivered, Hitler shifted gears, making promises and threats to different audiences. To the German people, he presented himself as a responsible leader fighting a limited war. I will not wage war against women and children. I have ordered my Air Force to restrict itself to attacks on military targets. But if the enemy thinks he can from that draw a license to fight with other methods on his side, then he will receive an answer that will knock him for a loop. This was a lie as he was speaking it. As those words left his mouth, the town of Wielun was already in ruins. Wielun had no military targets. It was a town of sleeping civilians. Estimates suggest 75% of it was destroyed in an act of pure terror bombing, a key part of Germany's new blitzkrieg strategy. The goal was to cause mass panic, so his promise was not just hollow, it was an active deception. Next, he turned to Britain and France. He knew invading Poland might trigger a bigger war, so he tried to convince them to stay out of it. I am happy particularly to be able to tell you of one event. Russia and Germany are governed by two different doctrines. We have therefore resolved to conclude a pact which rules out forever any use of violence between us. I should like to assure the world that the West has nothing to fear from this development. This assurance is our solemn declaration. Here, he publicly spins the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact as a victory for peace. But it was really a warning shot to the West. I have the Soviet Union handled, so don't even think about intervening. His assurance that the West had nothing to fear was an attempt to make them believe his ambitions stopped at Poland. He was betting they would back down again, sacrificing another nation for peace in our time. It was a gamble he was about to lose. In the final part of the speech, Hitler dropped all pretense of being a statesman. This was now personal. The war was his mission, and he fused his own identity with the fate of the nation. I am from now on just the first soldier of the German Reich. I have once more put on that coat that was the most sacred and dear to me. I will not take it off again until victory is secured, or I will not survive the outcome. My whole life was nothing but one continuous battle for my people, for its renewal, for Germany. There is one word I have never known. It is surrender. This is pure political theater, and it's incredibly effective. By putting on a simple soldier's coat, he's claiming to share the fate of the common man. He's not a politician sending others to die. He's leading from the front. His vow to win or die makes the war an all-or-nothing crusade, and when he says he's never known the word surrender, he's directly promising there will be no repeat of the 1918 capitulation that ended World War I. Then, he did something extraordinary. He named his successors, right then and there. Should something happen to me in this battle, my first successor will be party member Göring. Should something happen to party member Göring, the next in line will be party member Hess. You would then be bound by blind loyalty to them as Führers, as you were to me. Announcing a line of succession in a war speech is unheard of. It was meant to project total stability. The Reich will go on, no matter what. And it demanded that the personal, blind loyalty sworn to him be transferred to his successors. The war was now about him. The state was about him. And he made it clear that not even his own death could stop it. Hitler's speech was met with thunderous applause inside the opera house. But outside, the reaction was different. Reports from Berlin, largely anecdotal, suggest the streets were quiet and sober, nothing like the euphoric flag-waving crowds of 1914. The German people, remembering the last war, seemed more apprehensive than excited. In London and Paris, there was no hesitation. The gamble had failed. Britain and France gave Germany an ultimatum: pull your troops out of Poland or we are at war. Hitler, reportedly enraged that they had called his bluff, ignored it. On September 3, 1939, the deadline passed. Great Britain and France declared war on Germany. Hitler's limited war had become a European war. And in Poland, the fighting was brutal. The Wehrmacht's blitzkrieg was overwhelming. Then, on September 17th, any hope for Poland was crushed. The Soviet Union, fulfilling its secret pact, invaded from the east. Caught in a vice between two totalitarian giants, Poland collapsed. By early October, the last Polish troops had surrendered. The nation was wiped off the map, split between Germany and the USSR. The war that began with a lie had claimed its first victim. So, when you pull it all apart, what was this speech? It wasn't just a declaration of war. It was a retroactive justification, a masterclass in propaganda. It was Germany's public announcement of a war that had already started. Hitler's address is one of history's clearest examples of how language can be weaponized. The playbook he used is timeless. 1. Create a narrative of victimhood. 2. Invent a pretext for action, a false flag. 3. Dehumanize your target. 4. Claim you're the reluctant defender who was forced into conflict. 5. And, most importantly, accuse the other side of the very aggressions you are committing. These techniques are not locked away in history books. The deeply unsettling question is, where do we see echoes of this manipulative rhetoric in the world today? Now, we have to talk about the AI itself. Recreating Hitler's voice is an ethically tricky thing to do, and we're very aware of that. There's a real danger that this kind of technology could be used to create deepfakes or spread disinformation. We want to be clear about our purpose. This isn't about glorification, it's about critical examination. History can sometimes feel distant, like an old black and white movie. Technology like this, used responsibly, can close that distance. It forces us to confront the past in a more direct, unsettling way. The point isn't to resurrect a monster, but to better understand how that monster convinced millions to follow him. It's a reminder that the darkest moments in history don't just happen. They are made possible by words, by lies, and by the choice to believe them. By understanding how it happened then, we can better arm ourselves against it happening again. The first casualty of war is always the truth. And Hitler's speech on September 1st, 1939, is Exhibit A. It is a monument to deception. What are your thoughts on this? Does hearing the speech, even as a reconstruction, change how you perceive the event? We believe that engaging with history, even its hardest parts, is essential. We'd love to read your reflections in the comments below. And if you have ideas for other key historical speeches you'd like to see analyzed like this, let us know. If you found this useful, please like and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the moments that shaped our world. Thank you for watching.